Välkomna allihopa. Robert Samuelsson heter jag. Jag är Head of SAP Presales Sweden, som det så fint heter, för Tietoevry. Idag har jag med mig min kollega.
Jag Juuti, kommer från Finland. Mycket glad att vara här den tredje gången om jag kommer ihåg rätt. Fick Göteborg presentera saken som vi har gjort. Och jag är i Finland, inte bara i Finland, i Nordics. Jag är ansvarig om mycket fin titel, Head of SAP Architecture and Innovation. Min fru är mycket stolt över det. Hon vet inte vad det betyder.
Quick question. Do we run this in English for anyone, or otherwise we'll continue in Swedish? English? We have some English speaking, so we can switch to English. No issues. All right, we'll go through some quick things. So a little bit about Tietoevry as your partner. Then we'll cover the case of Glaston. If you don't know who Glaston is, you will soon know who it is. And then we'll do some summary and conclusions. So, whoops. Jumping a lot of slides already. Yeah. Tietoevry, so we are a Nordic-based consulting company with global capacities. So we are headquartered in Finland. We have operations mainly in the Nordics, but also in Central Europe, and we have an offshoring capability in India with the offices in Pune and Bangalore. Overall, in Tietoevry, we're around 20,000 people, but we are representing the business unit of Tietoevry Tech Services, where the SAP units resides, and we are around 750 plus consultants that are now in tech services, and then we have within Tietoevry around 1,100 SAP consultants, but we have in other areas as well. We are basically mostly in Finland, small business in Sweden that we are growing, and then we are also growing in Norway. We are focusing on S/4HANA transformations and also S/4HANA ALM services. If we look at, why is it jumping? There's something with this. I'll stay away from the laptop. So if we look at what do we do, so we normally describe ourselves also in some numbers. So if we look at the services that we are delivering, we are touching 62% of the round goods that are finding their way in the Nordics. So forest is a large industry for us. We also ensure that 31% of the pensioners in Norway get their pension on time for our services. And we ensure that 5 million plus invoices are managed within Stockholm City every day, or every year, sorry. And also 83% of the Finnish grocery trade goes for our services.
So good examples.
Yeah.
How wide you're working.
So we are widely working, and then of course we're also working in other industries, but those are our largest industries. We were just nominated, this was released on Thursday last week, as a leader in the Nordics within the areas of S/4HANA, so S/4HANA system transformation for application managed services, and also the managed cloud services, so SAP on cloud. We are happy to be there again for this the 4th year running that we are in the top quadrant within those areas, together with the other big dragons like Accenture and Capgemini and those, although we are a small Nordic player. But let's get over to the case. So Glaston.
Okay. I present the case because I have been working with Glaston about 6-7 years, don't remember exactly. And shortly about Glaston, it's quite normal story in Nordics. Start with the engineering innovations for some specific area, and in this case, it's a glass machines, not glass itself, but the glass machines for different industrial purposes. Glaston originally born in Tampere, where I come from also, from Tampere, Swedish. And short background, 5 years ago, Glaston bought out acquisition, Bystronic, the German, quite similar company. And today, they are truly global company, meaning that they produce these glass machines, which are basically more or less engineered, each of them. So it's project business at least. And they are also global service organization. Manufacturing units in China, Switzerland, Germany, Finland, and services around the world. And that's a company we have been, how to say, working with here in this case. And customer segments they have, and this is an area which is changing now quite rapidly also, that traditional segments has been architectural classes, meaning the building. For example, our main office in Helsinki, Espoo, that's covered with the Glaston produced materials. Mobility, meaning practice cars and other mobile devices. And the newcomers are the displays in the different formats, and also the solar power, because the glass has quite significant role there, and you can even have today glass and embedded solar power. And that's an interesting story. But now if we come to the real case, which was basically started by the fact that both SAP and Glaston and Bystronic, they had their own SAP instances, which quite fast got recognized that the Bystronic, the German company, had a problem. And there was a plan to harmonize these SAP instances, put one together, basically roll into Finland the Bystronic SAP, and also otherwise also harmonize the solution landscape, get rid of, how to say, tens of solutions which were not needed anymore, and build the new processes for the whole company for the same foundation. And in Glaston in Finland, they have, how to say, the process went very well, at least to one point where Glaston business people, they recognize that the solution which was created 10, 15 years ago, huge ABAP code, not tens, but thousands of code lines. They're not allowed to use it there. And the idea was to get to the SAP standard processes related to material planning and procurement. And some months before planned go live, the business said, no, we are not willing to go there. And we have to find a solution fast. How we are able to support business so that they are willing to go live. Luckily, this Glaston has implemented earlier BTP integration suite and embedded other tools there. And we found out together with the IT team that that's the only choice we have, that we have to use this no-code, low-code platform. In those days, it was really purchased Finnish company, but today they built us. It was called AppKaiva earlier. And customer trusted us that we are able to do this business critical thing in time. And now the aim really with this was that why we were doing this sort of thing was that this traditional solution created from scratch with ABAP, it was not touched not at all basically integrated to SAP. The bill of material for each project came directly from PLM system, not from SAP. And some part of SAP master data was there, but basically decisions of procurement and planning of procurement was done by each project separate. And second thing was that there were few people in the organization who were able to use it, and it's a huge risk for the operations as well. So that was the main part. And really the tradition which has been seen in quite many similar cases when I've been doing S4 assessment in Finland is that there are this kind of parallel processes outside SAP, which means that the values chain in SAP is broken. And the target we started to do it was really to start to take my classes. I don't see what are the topics there. Do the user-friendly environment, because these business users were very critical. And that means that you have to have a really graphical, informative, one source of truth to make decisions related to procurement. And really use as much as possible standard SAP processes and not really reinvent the wheel. If you think of MRP as such in SAP, it's a very complex solution. It takes master data, it takes stock balances, what you have open orders, transactional data, and so on, and calculates based on that the procurement proposals. And this was not manual. They didn't use it. And partly it's quite often a problem that you have this bad cycle that you cannot rely on the master data in SAP to do it, which means that you use it less, which means that the master data is even worse. And the aim with this was also to enrich and change the master data in a way that it would support the business. We have heard stories today related, for example, to AI. If you have not this kind of fundamental things in place, don't even dream about AI. And one thing now related to this S4 transformation was that we should not violate the core anymore. So we keep core clean. It's not just for S4. It's also an ECC environment, really, really important thing. And one thing to make transformation to S4 easier was that we were building OData interfaces to ECC based on S4 standard, meaning that it should be quite easy to go to S4 without touching this application at all. And the last but not least, I will come back to this MVP thinking, because I have been working in this industry almost 40 years. And the tendency is that when you start to create this application from scratch, we want to reach out too much. And it's much easier to start with a simple solution and make it later complex, but vice versa, it doesn't work anymore. And now related to this time schedule we had there, it was the only possible way to use MVP thinking, which I in general think that is a good rule to do this kind of applications. And the process itself, define, design, build, test, and automate. I will say that main message here is basically that doing definitions with a wide audience of end users with the proper tools is really good. Modern tools. We were using, for example, collaboration tool like HouseSpace here, which enables even remote common planning. And everybody is able to give notes and participate to the process. And built as it is, it was amazing, even for me, knowing these capabilities of no-code, low-code applications, that it took, the total time was 3 months from start to beginning to go live. And with build-ups, we were using some iteration rounds 2-3 weeks. So define and design was quite a big part of the total time. And when we were ready and we were able to, start to go these iteration rounds, it was very fast. And the code creation, it was basically really close to no code. And testing in this kind of really critical business solution, it took also quite big time from the end of the thing. And now related to this deploy, the important thing is that unexceptionally well-documented SAP application. We are used them when we are going to do S4 assessment, that we ask ECC documentation. You all know that we don't have it because that's a standard in the SAP. But here it's in place. And also, this is self-documenting story, basically. And the second thing is a user material is there in place. And now, from design to test, This is for build-ups, where we do these iteration rounds, tests, and make changes related to what customer wants to have there. You have a basic functionality first, and then you have this screen layout, what kind of icons, colors, and so on you use there. So that is very informative. And as we had a principle that we use SAP standard processes, we didn't do business logic inside this application. It's basically collecting the data from MRP, master data, planning situation, and so on, and gives tools for the end user to use the SAP standard transactions there behind. So really the big benefit for customers is that now they are using standard MRP. They are able to enrich master data if they are missing master data and so on from this tool. And this is not really good example of how it looks like, because these bill of material lines which are there related to the procurement, there are different colors telling with the one glance to the user that where to focus with the red. And there are also much icons there describing what kind of sub-assembly or material or ETO material, whatever we are talking about. So it's very informative, and it really gives the picture with a one glance. In SAP standard functionality, there are tools for that, different transaction reports and so on. But to be honest, specialized to MRP and so on, they are not so useful, and you have to be a very experienced user to be able to use those. And that's how to say the part of this. And summary and conclusions. I think you all know this Gartner base layer architecture thinking of systems record, systems of differentiation and innovation. And I really advise to look this. I don't know where you are in a SAP journey, are you in ECC, S4 and so on. But anyway, this is a good thing to put on layers. What kind of applications we should have to support different purposes. And I would say that this application we created today, that's in the top of their innovation. But in the same time, we have to consider that how we define this layered application architecture in a manageable way. And that's quite a lot of question of in SAP world today, it's BTP centric. We have services there, integrations there. And that means that we are also able to utilize later on within this application as well, artificial intelligence, automate things related to the procurement situation, that the system makes proposal that you should do it like this, not decide every time separately. And this is a way also keeping this clean core thinking in mind, the roadmap to phase 4, because I think that's in some organizations quite difficult, and it's good to start in the very beginning. And design thinking, I have used it in several different kind of projects, assessments, and so on. It's a really beneficial thing. I have been in this business about 40 years, and I have adopted it more and more to the way go to forward. And really about this minimum viable product. In the 80s, we were creating with IBM mainframe code from scratch. And there was, how to say, modern thinking in those days, we called it piloting, which was basically a bit same thing as I have these Scrum cycles and so on. But if you are not limiting the number of the cycles, or you don't have valid, meaning financial limits or something else, it will continue forever. And therefore, focus on the first release, really those mandatory things. And today, there has been improvement for this as well. There are other units also starting to utilize it. There has been performance problems, and now in BTP is also there's a process to build a HANA database there to be a buffer between ECC and this tool and things like that. So it's if you build a good foundation, it's a good place to start to make things more complex.
So this was a simple use case. Actually, it's a complex use case for the customer. But as Jouko said, we're starting with this minimum viable product. We're also enabling already in the discussions then. So, for example, how can we bring AI into this?
Yeah.
The next step now. So now we have the application, we get the data, the users are used to working with it. Now we're also getting the master data, because one of the main issues that they had was that they were not working with SAP.
Yeah.
They were working outside SAP, and the only record they didn't even, well, Info Records was the only master data.
Yeah, that's really
Info Records was the only master data they maintained. If you looked at their procurement cycle before, it was manual procurements. They did not even utilize SAP for their procurement cycle. So they were doing everything outside and then just putting in a straight list of materials into the system and buying it. And of course, you don't have any tracking or anything.
Yeah.
So we built in that, and then as a next step, as we said, start with the minimum viable product. Now we're looking at how can we automate to ensure that we buy things more efficient in the future, instead of now just being able at this first point, being able to track what we are buying, getting to the next step to automate and make it more efficient.
Yeah. And really the effort needed. We talk about 100 something days.
Yeah.
From both sides, not more. So I would say that our portion was all tens of days. And we were able to provide customer business critical solution in 3 months. Quite complex, basically. Despite we were trying to simplify it.
Yeah.
That's it. Any questions? And one PS. Don't be afraid of these new tools in SAP architecture, because they are really good ones. And I have to thank customers. They were brave enough to prove it. And now they're happy.
Right. No question. Thank you all. And
Thanks.
let's meet outside.